Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. In this brief video we are going to give a look to the 4 virtues of the fighter described by Fiore de Liberi in his manual. If you are new to this channel or to HEMA, Fiore de Liberi was a 14th to 15th century fencing master which wrote a beautiful manual about the art of fighting, the Fiore di Battaglia. In his book, Fiore shows the use of the knightly weapons of his time, all of them with their peculiarities for sure, but at the same time all connected by the same principles and concepts, from wrestling to poleaxe in armor. Some of these universal principles are described by Fiore as virtues, the virtues of the fighter. A fighter needs these 4 virtues to be able to excel in the art of fighting. These 4 virtues are Avvisamento, Ardimento, Fortezza and Prestezza. And today we are going to explore them, their meaning and their symbolism. Let's start by Avvisamento, or in Latin Prudenzia. Meglio di me l'ovo cerviero non vede creatura, e a quello mette sempre a sesto e a misura. Avvisamento may be translated in prudence, wariness or readiness. It is represented by a lovo cerviero or lovo cervino, which is the ancient name used to call the lynx. The name comes from the Latin lupus cervarius, which means wolf which hunts stags. Of course, everyone knows today that the lynx is a feline, but at Fiore times the animals were mainly known with the names delivered by bestiaries, and most of the knowledge used to write bestiaries was, surprise, surprise, Roman knowledge. Gaius Plinius Secundus, also known as Plinius the Elder, wrote the Naturalis Historiae toward the end of the 1st century. The Naturalis Historiae is a giant encyclopedia which talks about astrology, zoology, geography, and so on. Plinius, during his military life, had the chance to travel from Gallia to Germany, from Armenia to Africa, and many other places. He was indeed a curious and extremely intelligent person, and so he recorded everything that he had seen during his travels. The knowledge of animals and their shapes was part of this. Plinius described the lynx in this way: effigie lupi pardorum maculi. So basically, wolf shape but with leopard dots. A few words about Plinius were important because we will find him again later. But let's go back to our lynx. The lynx hunts with ambushes, getting close to their prey unnoticed till the distance needed to leap over them with few precise movements. This animal is also extremely hard to see in the woods. I live in a valley where the lynx lives and hunts, and it is really hard to find someone which had the chance to see it live. The lynx is an animal which is used to describe someone with good sight also. Occhio di lince or lynx eye is sometimes told of someone who sees very well. Dalla prudenzia vengono li buoni consigli, li quali conducono sé e altri a buono fine nelle umane cose e operazioni. As Dante said, good advice comes from prudence, which brings you and the others to good results in human activities and operations. Prudentia literally means prudence, being cautious and try to mentally predict the possible outcomes of your actions. Avvisamento means more or less the same thing, but it better translates in being prepared, being cautious or being ready. Avvisamento applied to fighting also fits well this sense of measure, the perception of distance. It is not by chance that the lynx holds a sesto, a compass in its right paw. The compass represents a measured attitude, a prudent attitude, but also the distance and the care with which we should consider this parameter. So avvisamento or prudentia is also the ability to be or get at the right distance at the right time. Prudence fits well as a description because instead of the case of the lynx, our prey tend to hunt too. More in the specific, they want to hunt us. The virtue of Avvisamento tells us to be always prepared, to be measured, to consider our actions and their outcomes, and to try to always being at the proper distance at the proper time, with precision. The second virtue is Ardimento, or Audacia in Latin. Più de mi, leone non porta core ardito, però di battaglia fazzo a ciascun invito. Ardimento means courage, audacity, or boldness. This is the most straightforward virtue to get by a certain point of view. Ardimento is represented by a lion, and it is by far, together with the lynx to an extent, the best represented animal in terms of drawing. The lion was still possible to find and observe in the Middle East and in North Africa, sometimes traded as a prestigious animal to display by nobles and such. It was also a quite common heraldic symbol, but despite all of this, it is full of horrific lions drawings throughout the entirety of the medieval ages. Because, yes, it was slightly more present in Europe than other exotic animals, but still it was a rarity, not so easily accessible. It seems that whoever drawn Fiore, the Fiore di Battaglia, had the luck to see a lion at least once. The lion has always been a symbol of courage, and it has been drawn with an heart in his right paw. The heart is where, in a symbolic way, our courage resides. Ardimento can easily be described. It is the commitment and the courage needed to land an action at the correct time, without any hesitation or delay. The fear of failure brings to hesitation, and hesitation may bring to defeat or death. So courage is needed to overcome this fear, to be ready to do what it needs to be done when the chance to do it arises. The third virtue is Fortezza, or fortitudo in Latin. Elefante son e un castello porto per cargo, e non m'inginocchio né perdo vargo. Fortezza can easily be translated with the words strength and vigor, but also with willpower to an extent. It is represented by an elefante, or elefante, as Fiore writes it, an elephant. The elephant drawing is by far the worst one. The elephant was by far something extremely rare to see in Europe during the Middle Ages, broadly speaking. There are only 2 elephants which reached Europe throughout the Middle Ages that I know for sure. One was Abul Abbas, the elephant that the Caliph of Baghdad, Harun al-Rashid, gifted to Charlemagne in the year 798. By the way, it needed 5 years of complex travel to get to Aachen in 802. Then there was the elephant gifted by the Sultan of Egypt to Louis IX, King of France, in 1254, which was then gifted again to Henry III, King of England, a few years later. Here we see how, a century before the birth of Fiore, if a real animal was actually there, medieval drawers were able to display a somewhat realistic representation of them. The drawings you're seeing right now are part of the Liber Additamentorum and of the Chronica Maiora, and were drawn by Matthew of Paris. This is the elephant of Henry III. There are no other stories about elephants getting to Europe for a century, but there is anyway this interesting codex, Historia Plantarum, of the very end of 14th century, the Fiore times basically, made by order of Gian Galeazzo Visconti, Duke of Milan, as a gift for Wenceslao IV, King of Bohemia and Germany. If you played the Kingdom Come Deliverance, you probably remember this name, by the way. Anyway, in this book there is a drawing of an elephant which is almost identical in terms of proportions and style of anatomical errors to the drawing present on the Fiore di Battaglia. Underneath the drawing there is a bit of text which says, "The elephant is an animal. Against all pain and inflammation of the head, elephant dung smeared on the head admirably takes away the pain and eliminates the hardness that arises on the forehead. Well, they knew it was an animal, that's for sure. Anyway, the elephant during the entirety of the medieval ages had been drawn many times with a castle over its back. By a pragmatic point of view, this is because the information of war elephants passed through the ages, or through thousands of kilometers, as in the region of India, Burma and Siam they were still used in war. By a pure symbolic point of view instead, this accentuates the qualities which interest us: strength, willpower and stability. The elephant, with their strength and their willpower, carries around the tower with stability. Imagine the tower being our upper parts, carrying a sword and delivering blows, parries and so on. They are carried by the elephant, our lower limbs, which moves around freely with strength and stability. This is what Fortezza is about. Fortezza represents our physical strength and our willpower, but also our stability. Now, if you trained strength in your life, you probably already know that these virtues are all crucial main parts of strength training, and one influences the other. Fortezza teaches us to improve our strength, our stability and balance. Notice, by the way, that Fortezza in modern Italian means fortress, which still fits our drawing and our concept to an extent. The fourth and the last virtue is Prestezza, or celeritas in Latin. Io tigro son tanto presto a correre e a voltare, che la sagitta nel cielo non mi poria avanzare. Both celeritas and Prestezza can easily be translated with a single word: speed. Prestezza is represented by a tigro, or tiger, in theory. And here we find again our best friend, Plinius the Elder. You know, while talking about big cats, there was a lot of chaos during the Middle Ages. You have already seen something about this with the lynx. While talking about tigro, the tiger, Fiore could refer to a plethora of felids. The leopard, the tiger, the cheetah. I mean, why you say leopardo, leopard, and gepardo is not gepard but cheetah? Well, anyway. Plinius the Elder cited two big cats in his Naturalis Historia, the tiger and the panther. Plinius described these animals in this way: the panther and the tiger, almost alone of beasts, are distinguished by a variety of markings, whereas the rest have a single color, each kind having its own. Black in the case of lions in Syria only. Panthers have small spots like eyes on a light ground. It is said that all four-footed animals are wonderfully attracted by their smell, but frightened by the savage appearance of their head, for which reason they catch them by hiding their head and enticing them to approach by their other attractions. Some authorities report that they have a mark on the shoulder resembling a moon, expanding into a circle and hollowed out in a similar manner. As it is, people use the name spotted ladies, and for the males, pards, in the whole of this genus, which occurs most frequently in Africa and Syria. Some persons distinguish panthers from these by their light colors, nor I have so far discovered any other difference. Now, on top of this bit of text, medieval people tried to work out a distinction between panther and tiger on their bestiaries. Of course, with relatively poor results. We see tigers and panthers with stripes, dots, and every possible color. Now, you probably know that in modern days, panthers, or better, Pantherinae, is a subfamily of felids, with the other one being felines. Among the Pantherinae, we may find the tiger as part of this subfamily, So basically, a tiger is a panther. Long story short, as we have seen for other animals, there was a bit of confusion. Considering that its main attribute is speed, we can anyway identify our tigro as a cheetah or ghepardo in Italian. Notice that during the 15th century, the hunt with the cat started to be practiced by some members of the Italian nobility, where a cheetah, or maybe, but far lesser probably, a leopard, was used instead of dogs or more conventional animals as hunting animals, as we can see in this fresco of Benozzo Gonzoli, which you can find in the De Medici Riccardi Palace in Florence. The dimensions of the animals and their attitude is far from reality, but nonetheless we know that hunting with big cats was done during these times. Anyway, our tigro is represented with an arrow in the right paw. Fiore says that he is faster than an arrow or than a lightning, as sagitta can mean both the things. As it happened in the case of the lion, it is easy to get the message behind this symbol. To be effective, a fighter needs to be fast in his footwork and in his movements. Correre and voltare are mentioned by Fiore, so the tigro runs fast and turns fast. So a fighter needs to especially be able to perform fast movements on his legs and be able to turn either his body or his sword as soon as possible, when action is needed. This was the fourth and last virtue mentioned by Fiore. So, prudence, readiness, and distance management. Courage and boldness. Strength, willpower, and balance. And speed and mobility. These are the qualities of a fighter, following the teachings of Maestro Fiore de Liberi. Very good, people. I hope you will find this video useful and interesting. Remember to check my Patreon page, link in the description, if you want to help me and the channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.